It's no gorilla.
It's not our kind.
Tarzan!
In 1912, the October issue of All Story magazine, my grandfather created a legend in Tarzan.
And in reading this book, it was incredible, the Tarzan he described. This Tarzan moves and acts and thinks like an animal. He's like a genius of adaptation. He takes a movement from a leopard. He takes a movement from a gibbon. He can imitate the movement of a serpent.
And no actor could move like that. It's not humanly possible.
We would kill any live-action actor who was trying to do the things that our animated Tarzan was doing. This was a character that could only be realized the way Burroughs imagined it in animation.
Moves like an ape, but looks like a man. He could be the missing link.
One thing that people may not realize about the Tarzan books is that the animals all speak, that Tarzan can speak to the animals.
Turk, I'm asking you as a friend.
Ah! All right! But don't make me do anything embarrassing.
I don't think you've ever realistically seen a portrayal of what Tarzan's relationship is with his ape family and with the animals around him.
We can take these animals that really make up the jungle and really put some life into these animals to help tell Tarzan's story.
Tarzan, for once, listen to Kerchak.
Why didn't you tell me there were creatures that looked like me?
What we also try to do is make the themes feel somewhat contemporary, but also be true to the history of Tarzan.
Kerchak, I know he'll be a good son.
I said he could stay. That doesn't make him my son.
What you have in Tarzan is you have all the ingredients for a great Disney movie.
At the heart of it, it's just a great story with something really important to say.
Close your eyes. Now forget what you see. What do you feel?
This powerful rendition of a great story, a classic American story, brought forth in imagery like only Disney could do, was just phenomenal.
One of the most interesting things we did when trying to do research for this film was actually go to Africa.
We needed to go to Africa for our research trip to really understand where Tarzan grew up. And so what we did was immersed ourselves in Tarzan's world. Tarzan's world had to be something spectacular, and we just had to see, what it is that Burroughs was writing about.
Whenever you're starting a character, you're on this inspiration search. You're trying to be inspired from some direction. You don't know where it's going to come from. Sometimes you have to go search for it, like going to Africa, looking for the gorillas, studying them there.
And for me, the most important research was to go to Uganda, where they actually have these silverback gorillas, a whole family of gorillas up there in the impenetrable forest. What I thought I was going to find, I didn't. I thought I was going to find these mean, monstrous gorillas. Instead, in getting there, there was a family of 13 gorillas that were all sitting around in a very relaxed, family-like attitudes. It was like a little paradise. I came away with an appreciation for who Tarzan was, the way he thinks, the way he acts. And those are the kind of things that go into making your character convincing.
He's one of them.
The second thing it really did, I think, was inform the layout of the movie, the background painting of the movie. Because we were like knee-deep in vegetation, we thought, wouldn't it be cool if our characters could be that way too?
We will nest here for the night.
Every tree was covered with something else living on top of it, some other type of plant.
I took 150 rolls of film while we were there, gathering all the information, whatever details we could of the jungle, of the moss, of the vines, of the different types of trees, of the bark on the trees, from the smallest details to the longer shots, just whatever I thought we could possibly use as reference in the film.
Ow, 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 ow. Daddy, what's all the hullabaloo about?
I found myself with my video camera moving through it on purpose just because you would get this incredible dimensional thing happening when vines and things would move past the camera. And so that to me was the coolest part of it, because, if we could make people in the audience feel like they are really there, that was it for me.
No, no, don't give me those crocodile tears. What would your parents have to say?
It is a very beautiful, lush place, and I think the way that the style and the paintings and the general visual approach to this film has captured that sense of Africa. I think they've been very successful.
I can't overemphasize how important story is in the process here. It's what we spend the most amount of time on. The screenwriters, myself, the directors, the story crew. We have to build this movie from the ground up, every single frame.
She turns, she covers the baby. On the wood is Sabor starts punching his way through the wood.
Storyboards basically just start with the idea in your imagination. And you go from there. You start drawing, you start doing some quick sketches just to get you started. And little by little, you expand that into a comic book sort of style. So you can, shot by shot, plan out the sequence. Once we get the sequence drawn out, we basically have to pitch it to the directors. We take them through it one sketch at a time, acting out all the characters' personalities, playing out the business, trying to pitch a sense of real time, how it'll play in the film, and hopefully get them excited about it so they put it in the movie. Then it'll move forward, go down to editorial, where they'll start pulling it together on film, adding music, soundtrack, dialogues.
I'm Jane.
No. I'm Jane.
When it finally gets bought off, then it'll move forward into animation.
Jane. Tarzan. Jane.
If you watch the film, oftentimes sequences of action will happen that play out unlike other animated movies we've done. And I think it shows a next step for us, a certain kind of maturity, if you will, about how to approach telling a story.
This movie does have relatively less dialogue than maybe some other features of recent years. And that was really a nice change for me because it allows you to hold on characters, focus on their faces, let them put across how they're feeling visually, and they don't have to do it with dialogue.
When you watch the way the film cuts, its rhythm, it's got a beautiful rhythm inside the film, its internal rhythm within sequences. And that's Greg Perler, because he's a great editor.
It's actually something that most people aren't aware of, that the editor is hired almost the first on, but certainly one of the first on, and stays on until the very, very end. And the reason why I have so much work at the beginning is because the directors and the writers and the story artists are literally trying to hammer out the story, figure out the structure for the film. And it's much easier for us to do that, to experiment before animation begins.
I think it gives it a chance to really get the story solid. I mean, we're not going to spend 3 years on a movie that the story doesn't work. You know, we're gonna hammer it out until we run out of time. It's a process that doesn't really end all at once. It's constantly overlapping, and you're molding it until it's finished.
Tarzan.
Jane.
The animation for Disney's Tarzan was actually created on 2 different continents.
Can't we walk?
You wouldn't believe that while I was animating Jane here in California, Glenn was animating Tarzan in France, and yet together the characters come alive and are in love on screen.
It was really incredibly challenging getting those 2 studios, those 2 groups of artists to work together.
I think through modern technology, luckily, we're able to teleconference with them quite a bit. The directors, Kevin Lehman, Chris Buck, talked with the Paris studio just about every day.
Why are you spread out like that, people ask? It's about the artists. It's about where can you have artists, where can you work, and what can they create. Then you combine that with 2 very powerful words in the animation business, Glenn Keane.
I remember saying to them that, you know, I can't tell you why, but I believe that if we do this character in Paris, the film is going to be better for it. And when I got to the studio, I found that it was an incredible treasure chest of artists who had been trained in classical drawing and whose background in anatomy was necessary to animate this character. So each guy brings some of their strength to it. You know, in a lot of ways, the character is better because they are giving themselves to Tarzan. And I found there was a trust developed between us. I mean, even though I'm an American and they're French, I feel like it didn't matter. We were all Tarzan.
Ultimately, Tarzan's a much better film because of the collaboration with the Paris studio.
The character of Tarzan is being animated in Paris. Jane's being animated in Los Angeles. Who knows if they're ever going to get together?
In Disney's Tarzan, we wanted to create a jungle that was as cool as our animated Tarzan.
So that when the audience watches it, they go, wow, I'd really like to be there. I'd really like to be in that place.
And if Tarzan is going to be doing these incredible things, and we are really to believe that he's doing them, then he has to be doing them in a three-dimensional space so that we can experience that with him.
So when we're tracking Tarzan through the canopy and he's moving through the trees, we wanted the camera to go with him.
We had no idea how we were going to accomplish this look, and we just trusted that we would figure out a way. And we sort of leapt off the branch and fortunately found a branch to grab onto, and it was deep canvas.
Deep canvas allows you to move an animation the way you've never been able to move before.
And it's just like taking a camera and moving it through a painting. You go straight towards the painting, but then you can make a left turn, a right turn. You can look up or down. You can completely turn around and have more painting behind you. Deep canvas is the software that helps us to map brushstrokes to geometry. The geometry is the set. It's created by the layout department. A background painter then paints that set.
Normally they'd use a paintbrush, but in this case they don't use a paintbrush, they use a stylus and a digitizing tablet, and they start painting into the computer the same thing that they would paint if they were using a brush and real paint. But the difference is that now they can, in effect, rotate to a different view and paint areas that they couldn't see before. And when they're done painting, they've created this entire environment that the character can move through.
And it gives, I think, the camera an amazing chance to move through this world and see these two worlds colliding, and it's always fluid. There's so much going on all of the time.
I wanted it to be like a thrill ride. I wanted it to be that you were on this roller coaster moving through the jungle with this crazy baboon chase going on.
So when the audience is coming along for that ride, they look around and it's as though they are inside this incredible painting.
You feel like you're experiencing what Tarzan's going through. You're in it with him. You're not just watching him.
What the deep canvas effect does in the movie is draw you into it. It draws you into this extraordinary universe that Tarzan lives in. It brings you in a way that you don't understand, and yet you're pulled into it. That's deep canvas at its most powerful.
In our Tarzan, an animated Tarzan, we had the ability to completely reinvent the way Tarzan moves.
How do you have Tarzan travel in a unique, new way through the jungle? That's what Glenn Keane did.
I was picturing him moving like I'd never seen him in a Hollywood film. The way they described him, he could leap out into space and climb up trees like a little squirrel, and he was nimble and agile. He could move like a panther. He was a genius of adaptation.
And we were able to bring those descriptions to life in animation.
I've been watching my son do his skateboarding and snowboarding, and started thinking of Tarzan as kind of having this attitude of like a surfer kind of a guy.
You know, he suddenly saw that he could take that, and maybe Tarzan could be that kind of guy through the trees.
And so started thinking of Tarzan as a tree surfer, that he should use the branches like sidewalks, jungle sidewalks, and he's sliding his feet down the moss. He doesn't just swing on the vines with his hands, he grabs them with his feet, you know, as he's pulling, moving through.
You see a character who could never appear on the screen, really, in any other medium other than animation.
When you look at Tarzan, you can actually feel the animal inside the man.
And I think that's because we show how he got that way.
He was really a child that was raised in the jungle around apes, and a child who had to adapt to his environment.
He's all pantomime, expression, very playful, very curious, but not scared. He's not timid because he's still Tarzan as a baby.
Alex D. Lenz is doing the voice of young Tarzan.
That one hurt him. The thing to remember about young Tarzan is that he was raised by apes, and so he moves like an ape and not like a boy.
The next age is Tarzan at 20, and we cast Tony Goldwyn to do the voice of Tarzan at 20, and part of what we liked about Tony's voice was it sounded like a man, not like a boy.
No matter where I go, you will always be my mother.
And the great thing is it turns out he's a really good mimic, so he could do a lot of the animal noises, and he's got a good ear.
He's grown up with the animal. He has the instincts of an animal, but he looks like a man.
He's a guy who is in search of the truth about himself.
He needs to know. He needs to know about everything that there is in his world. And it's ultimately what drives him to the discovery of who he is.
I think everyone can relate to Tarzan's experience.
Acceptance, loyalty, sacrifice.
Finding out who you are and where you belong.
I think these are the ideas that really make you care about Tarzan.
This is a Tarzan that you've never seen before.
It's the Tarzan that Edgar Rice Burroughs created in his original novels.
Finally, we were able to portray my grandfather's characters as he truly wrote them. It just shows you the magical ability of animation and what you can do with it.
When you think about Tarzan, I think you also think about Jane. And what we wanted to do was create a Jane that was much more than just a sidekick.
We wanted to make her a really interesting character.
It's very nice to meet you, too.
She's innocent, she's got a lot of energy, she's creative, she draws. So when she sees something in the environment, she has a bit of interest towards it, and it can get her into trouble.
And only when she gets into the jungle, she meets this strange jungle man, is she allowed to become herself.
Oh, I'm in a tree with a man who talks to monkeys.
When Minnie Driver came in and actually did Jane, it took it to a completely different level.
Oh, don't it tickles. No, get off, get off.
And we realized this character was actually going to be humorous just by the very nature of what Minnie brought to the character.
You do speak. And all this time I thought you were just a big, wild, quiet, silent person thing.
She really is the catalyst for the change in Tarzan's life. She's really the first human that Tarzan comes, face to face with.
For him, it's a very curious moment because it's the first time he sees someone exactly like him.
She changes Tarzan's life, but Tarzan also changes her life. And I think that's what makes them such a great screen couple.
It's chemical, I think, mostly. And I also think it's a kindred spirit. That's who they find. And yes, she's come from Victorian England and he's been brought up by a silverback ape, but they're kind of the same person.
I've never seen such eyes.
Oh, shall I leave you and the blackboard alone for a moment?
Daddy, stop it.
Jane has a great relationship with Porter, her father. She has a lot of love for him, a lot of humor is shared between the characters.
He's the world's leading expert on apes who's never seen an ape.
Oh, hello. Archimedes Q. Potter at your service. Quite a grip you've got. He's a gifted amateur. But he loves the jungle, as I do. I mean, that much we have in common. He moves like an ape, but looks like a man. He could be the missing link.
Nigel, as an actor, just brings in so much warmth and intelligence that even though Porter seems like he's crazy, he's not. He's bright. He's just overly enthusiastic.
Plus,
He just loves Jane.
Oh, Jane, I love you.
I think when Tarzan sees that for the first time, it really strikes a chord with him.
Yeah, seeing the tenderness between them, I think is very powerful.
There's a real relationship there, and all these relationships come together, and I think that's what Tarzan's all about.
Carla, it won't replace the one we lost.
I know that, but he needs me.
Well, I think Kala and Tarzan's relationship is really the heart of the film.
So where's his mama? No, I'm going to be his mother now.
She is an ape who finds Tarzan and raises him to an adult and teaches him that what is inside is more important than what is outside.
That's material directly from the book that's really never been explored before because you couldn't do it. This medium allows you to do that.
Close your eyes. Now forget what you see. What do you feel?
Glenn Close is doing the role of Kala.
I'm gonna call him Tarzan.
She was very interested in doing a mother in a Disney film.
Don't even think about it.
How'd you know it was me?
I'm your mother. I know everything.
Kala is a wonderful, nurturing mother. She's lost a child. She finds this child. She saves this child from Sabor, the leopard.
She raises something that's not even hers and doesn't even look like the rest of the family.
Carla, look at it. It's not our kind.
So she has to raise this child kind of against the will of the father figure.
Kerchak, I know he'll be a good son.
I said he could stay. That doesn't make him my son.
Tarzan's relationship with Kerchak speaks to anyone who's been in a family where they have to deal with a stepfather who hasn't fully realized his love for this child.
Oops. What we didn't want Kerchak to be was Tarzan's foe. He's not really the foe, but in a certain sense, he's kind of his emotional opponent.
You may be willing to risk our safety, but I'm not.
Why are you threatened by anyone different from you?
Lance Henriksen is doing the voice of Kerchak.
He did a great job in bringing the right amount of dominance and authority to the character.
You can't learn. You can't learn to be one of us.
Because you never give him a chance.
He will never be one of us.
It was like, wow, if I could pull this off, if they really believe in me enough to allow me to try to pull this off, I'm going to give it everything I got.
Protect this family and stay away from them.
Kala learns to raise this child selflessly and let it go. Kerchak learns to accept this child into his life. Tarzan learns really who he is. Each of the characters learns something, but most importantly, they learn this idea of family.
No matter where I go, you will always be my mother.
In Disney animation, a great hero is made even greater by a great opponent.
And in Tarzan, Tarzan's foe is Clayton, the big game hunter.
When I was researching the character, I was watching a lot of old kind of adventure films that had big game hunters as their main characters. 40 years ago, these guys that played the same role that Clayton plays in this film were the heroes. And, but in today's climate, doing the same thing, collecting animals for the zoo, is an evil thing.
Well, from the beginning, we knew that we didn't want the typical villain. So Clayton, what we tried to do is bring him in and drop hints along the way as to what his agenda is.
He could be the missing link.
Or our link to the gorilla.
And we tried to come up with one word that described our character, and the word we came up with for Clayton was suave.
There are no trails through a woman's heart.
On the other hand, he's brutal, he's malicious.
I think this one will be better off stuffed.
And that duplicity, that part of him being suave and charming to hide his true nature, which was brutal and malicious, was the key to who he was as a character.
If Jane sees gorillas, she stays?
Say, that's why she came, isn't it?
We cast Brian Blessed as Clayton.
You hired me to protect you, Miss Porter, and protect you I shall.
He was Clayton. This guy was not only
Was he perfect? The voice was perfect. The attitude was perfect. But he was also an explorer. Brian is an explorer in his real life.
His is a lifelong romance. Clayton loves himself. Absolutely total egomaniac.
If I can teach a parrot to sing God Save the Queen, I can certainly teach this savage a thing or two.
The directors wanted to show some parallels between the different villains in the picture. Clayton as a human villain and Sabor as an animal villain. And so art direction-wise, they tried to give them similar color palettes and color them similarly so you could kind of make a connection. They are both predators. They're both enemies to Tarzan's family in each their own way. Not so much for the sake of villainy, but that's just in their nature.
You there! Take what you can back to the boat!
Something that's interesting also about Clayton and Sabor is that they both find defeat at the hands of Tarzan in similar ways, and that is that they are reduced to using pure animal instinct, whereas Tarzan begins to use his head. What Tarzan learns from Clayton is that humanity isn't about where you grew up, but how you behave.
Go ahead, shoot me.
And in the end, Tarzan becomes much more human than Clayton ever was.
Be a man.
Not a man like you!
But nevertheless, Clayton is a tremendous kind of foe. He's physically very intimidating, and it's touch and go whether Tarzan can defeat him or not. You should be on the edge of your seats.
I've got some hunting to do.
I feel something happening here. Now, hit it!
In animation, like the original novel, we show Tarzan growing up with the animals. And one of these is a gorilla named Turk.
The fun has arrived. Thank you very much.
The one word I think that describes Turk the most to me is that she is just extremely... I'm searching for the word.
Yeah, it's freaky looking, okay? That's what it is.
She's a little stinkpot, and you absolutely adore her.
What the heck is it anyway?
He's a baby.
You know, she's a welcoming committee for Tarzan, bringing Tarzan into this group of gorillas that he's going to be living with for the rest of his life.
They're siblings, and so there's a lot of humor that comes out of that.
And originally we thought, as in the original novel, that Turk was a guy. It kept not being the right match.
So we thought, what would happen if Turk was played by Rosie O'Donnell?
Thank you. Thank you so much for finding him, Gertrude. Run.
There's something a little edgy about Rosie's voice and her manner that felt like she could kind of be a little bit of this tomboy idea that we had for Turk.
Hello? Are you thinking ahead?
If you want Kerchak to like you, stay away from him.
I am a gorilla. The best friend of Tarzan from the time when we were little. Okay, everybody, move aside, out of my way. Best friend coming through. That would be me. It looks a little like me. It's got a pot belly. It's got like a little double chin. It's got big hair. And, you know, it's round.
Turk, I'm asking you as a friend.
Oh, down with the face and the eyes and the... all right.
You know, I think everybody would love to have a friend like Turk, you know.
He's alive! He's alive! He's alive! He's alive! You idiot! You nearly gave me a heart attack. You happy?
Tarzan and Turk also have an elephant friend named Tantor.
Are you sure this water's sanitary? It looks questionable to me.
They grow up together and they become, you know, lifelong friends.
Oh, Turk. I've never seen him so happy.
Yeah, I give it a week.
Turk's the more aggressive type, I would say, and Tantor's extremely neurotic elephant.
Okay, it's all fun and games until someone loses an eye.
The voice for Tantor was Wayne Knight, and he fit the character perfectly.
Hey, what's everybody looking? The horror! It's gruesome. Hide me.
Pull yourself together. You're embarrassing me.
He enjoys the quiet time and peace in the jungle, and there's not a lot of that.
Come on, Tantor!
As soon as they actually decided what they wanted to do at the beginning of the movie, then they said, we need a song. This is what the song should be about. Two worlds in one family. I have to be honest, that the thing that motivated me at first was the rhythmic possibilities. To me, it was tailor-made for what I do. I mean, drums. Trash in the Camp. And there's like 3 chords in it. That was the most fun. I mean, it's so simple. In theory, when you hear it, it's the simplest, and it was the most difficult song to write.
Now, hit it!
Woo! For one so small, you seem so strong.
You'll Be in My Heart, which is the lullaby, lent itself to so many emotional moments in the movie. And it really was, you know, born out of that picture when you see the 2 hands. And in a way, that song, I've told my daughter this, that it's really for her. You know, it's her song, even though it's an ape singing it to a baby boy. At one point, I could almost be the voice of Carla. Then when he's growing up, I kind of feel like I've become almost the voice of Tarzan's father in a way. But then you get to Strangers Like Me, when I'm actually singing Tarzan's thoughts.
Come with me now to see my world, where there's beauty beyond your
I orchestrated it and voiced it in an African yet accessible way.
I kind of felt like it was a real challenge to take a Phil Collins approach to a song and then take it to another place. It was a collaborative process between the 2 of us to try to figure out how to make it sound different and fresh.
I like the idea of collaborating with all these people that were basically only interested in doing the best job possible. But obviously, the most gratification you get is when, you know, you write a lyric to something that's potentially difficult, like Son of Man, which is a montage of when he's 5 to when he's 20, and it works. You know, you kind of write something that does the trick. I don't know how to describe it. To have that effect, you know, to have written a piece of music that has that effect with the picture. I mean, this is my first crack at this, you know, and I think, wow, that's what I want to do.
Tarzan's a character that's popular throughout the world, and I think our film's going to be seen in over 30 different languages.
Someone says, excuse me, we go to 35 countries. So I'm afraid are you going to try to sing in Spanish or Swahili? That's opened up a whole area of, I've sung it in Spanish, and I've sung it in German, and I've sung it in French. And I've never ever sung anything in another language before. So that's another plus, that's another new thing I've learned while doing this project.
Whatever you do, I'll do it too. Show me everything, tell me how. It all means something, and yet nothing to me. Il y a tant de choses à savoir, semblant si près, pourtant si loin.